Welcome, everybody. I'm Terri at Holding Your Space, and today we have Nancy Jean from Nancy Jean's Garden and Jeffrey from Ripe Color.
Hola, hola.
We're very happy to be here.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Good
you for
morning.
being here.
Good
morning.
afternoon. Good evening, whenever you're watching.
Yeah. Hola. Welcome from Mexico, Jeffrey. I'm so excited to have you back. And everybody that's coming in, the Barbaras are here, Barbara and Barbara Berkman. Good morning. Paul White Dragon, I got your question. Patricia, hi. And today we are talking about our shadows. And so there's some really good questions coming in about that. Hey, Debbie. And discussing them, we were kind of discussing backstage about different types of shadows. Some of them are family oriented, and some of them for me were old boyfriend oriented. But all of them are kind of a piece of ourselves, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah. So and Jeffrey has just written a book on the shadows, and which I'm so excited about, and it's going to be on Amazon. And anyway, do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay, I just love this.
So Nancy and I were having a conversation. What was it, 2 weeks ago, Nancy?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
And I don't know, we were talking about, I don't know, it was just general, but Nancy and I actually talk about a lot of really, heavy things.
Right? Yeah.
And I realized that, the way through is through. The way through is through. And I've been talking about this on my channel for a long time. It's really about this relationship because everything is so all over the place in the world. And I rely on my job. I rely on my relationship. I rely on the amount of money I have. I rely on my health. I rely on these people, whatever. And things can change. So it's really about having this deep relationship with yourself, and that as the foundation of your life, the relationship you have with your own light, with your own soul, which exists in your heart, in your mind, and in your energy body. So we were talking about it, and lately, Nancy and I have been talking about, like, how can people do the interior work? And a lot of stuff, a lot of times, is hidden from us. So I like very practical how to. Those are the kind of books that I really like. I want to be able to look something up and use it. And so basically it's kind of a how-to book. Work with shadow work with, like, the dark pieces of yourself, the pieces that you've been hiding from yourself, the pieces that you don't necessarily want to confront or deal with or look at. Instead, just buy another sweater or etc. We all have our own little
Retail therapy.
Oh,
yeah.
man. Hello.
Or oh well, if I eat a pound of chocolate, it won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I put together a book of spreads that you can use in Tarot, but you could also use them with Oracle. And I made them very simple. They're 3-card spreads, 4-card, 5-card, and 6-card. Most of them are 3 and 4.
Perfect.
And it at least opens the conversation as to what are the questions to ask, and how do I use this? How do I transform this? How do I make peace with this? So it's an open dialogue, and the book is really pretty. I really work. I'm an artist. So.
I can show them if you don't mind. I can show them the page.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a printer. I don't.
I know. This is one page. This is the soul mirror spread, and that's card 1, 2, and 3, and then their questions are there. And then, this is another 3-card spread. What my shadow wants me to know. And I think that's a hard question. That's not something you're going to sit at home and come up with on your own. And it's got 1, 2, 3. And then there are 4-card spreads. Elements of spirit spread. What are your mental barriers and breakthroughs, spiritual purpose and passions, emotional wisdom, practical steps of intuition. But that's how the pages are designed. So they're not mind-blowing, and you can actually almost read these in the dark. Speaking of shadow, the print's so big.
They come with a little light.
But that's what the pages look like.
So that's what the pages look like. It's 39 spreads. And then in the physical version of the book, which will be available in a day or two, because the publisher, don't ask, a lot of technology stuff. Like after each section, like the section is, say, the 3-card readings. So there are like 13 of them. Then I leave like 4 or 5 blank pages. So if you get the physical book, you have a place to write it, and etc. And I'm also planning on a journal, but I'll get to work on that soon.
I love that. I love that. And what's the name of it, Jeffrey?
It's called the Shadow Work Tarot Workbook.
Okay.
And I can tell you guys, if you do this sort of system, I read tarot since I was 12, but it was really in my 20s that I got, well, if I'm going to tell adults what to do with their lives, maybe I ought to know more about it. And I got a workbook from Eileen Cannon, and not Eileen Cannon, it's Eileen. I'm blanking on her name, and I read her cards all the time. But she had a workbook, and each card was on its own page, and I did a card a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd pull that card, and I'd look at the features she told me to look at. Then I'd write down what they said. And I still have that book that I did. I've not carried a whole lot of things that long with me, but I've kept that book because a lot of what first emerges for you when you're doing this is your best.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Jeffrey. Tell them how to use it.
Well, no, writing, when you write something down physically, it goes into a deeper place in your mind. It really does. Because not only you're writing it, but you're hearing yourself write it, and then you can reread what you wrote, and it infiltrates on a deeper level. It really does.
Mhm.
I write every day. I write every day. That's how I do a message a day from my tarot.
Mm-hmm.
So I sit on the roof, and the question is, I do some prayers, and I write, what does my soul want to tell me today? So and I get that, and I get a message, and then that's the message of the day for me and for YouTube. And then, so I take that message, and then I pull a card, and I combine them. Sometimes it's easier than other days, I have to tell you, because sometimes it's like, oh, it's going to be a great day, and then I pull the darkest card in the deck.
Which
But a lot of times it really aligns.
Yeah, and sometimes when we pull that dark card or we come out to that dark space, it's really a reset, and it's really good for us.
Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of times the devil comes up, like the devil is the perfect like shadow work kind of card.
Mhm.
A lot of times the devil comes up, and the question is, what am I keeping in the dark? What am I attached to that I don't need to be attached to? What kind of falseness am I attached to? Because that's what the devil's about. The devil's really about a false path that you're attached to, thinking, oh, I have to do this because, and there's a lot of times there's like greed or lust or something weird attached to it. And it's like, oh, well, no one will know. Least of all me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I pulled this morning for my card. I was having a hard time getting out of bed, and I was sitting, okay, what's going on? So I have a app in my phone because I'm late. I just can't carry all my decks with me. And I pulled it. It has a card of the day, and I pulled it up, and it was the devil. And I went, oh. And then I realized the devil's kind of shadow work. So
Yeah.
we're okay.
Yeah, it's exactly as it's supposed to be. Garden Genie says, I'm intrigued. And I wanted to say hi to Kelly Scarborough's here today. Hi, Kelly. And Medium Betsy Palmer. Equus just had a bone scan that it turned out really well, it looks like. So you're perfect place then. And Suzanne, everybody, great to see you. And thank you all for being here. I think this is so timely right now, Jeffrey, and especially that it's so easy to use for all of us because we can't take this stuff to fifth density.
Yeah, I wanted to be very clear and very
Yeah.
simple and very direct. I didn't want to get into all this psychological. It's like, these are the questions. And a lot of these are kind of the kind of questions you have to answer for yourself,
Yeah.
And, if you have like, say, a therapist or a spiritual counselor that you work with, and let's say you throw 3 oracle cards and then, you see this thing and you don't understand it, or, you're a little frightened to look at it, or you need somebody to hold your hand through the process, and that is fine. But it just opens the dialogue.
Jeffrey, is it still available? You still need to go to ripecolor.com.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in the notes.
Thank you. It's digitally it's available, like, and actually I went to the back end of my site. Let's hope it works, so that if you buy it digitally, it automatically goes to your email. Let's cross our fingers.
Awesome. That's great. Hi, Sharon Sipe. How are you?
I'm so good at the back end of my site. I can't even tell you.
That's shadow work in itself.
Oh my God. It took me like maybe 2 days to write the book, but I mean, my 2 days is like really 2 days. But to get it all together, to print with Amazon and with the other printer, that's been taking me like 7 or 8 days. It's like,
Well, it helps that you're an artist too.
Yeah, no, the artsy part is fine. It's the techie stuff.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't.
No,
imagine.
I can't either. That's the problem.
Yeah. Chandel, I'm just about to start shadow work. She says, just got the Oracle deck, The Secret Language of Darkness.
That's a great name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love that name. Love that name. And some people kind of shy away from the darkness, from the shadow work. I mean, sometimes it's frightening to go back and look at what happened in our past, or and rightly so. Like we might disassociation, perhaps, like something might have happened when you were 3 years old, or something might have happened last week, and you're like, I don't want a piece of that, man. I'm hiding from that stuff. And these are the things that make us whole.
But you're bigger than your fear. You're carrying your fear around. Your fear is not carrying you around.
I love that.
I'm a Scorpio too, Barbara. Big surprise. Big surprise.
Love that. Yeah. So Sharon, thanks so much for pulling all that in for us. That's really kind of you.
Sharon is incredible.
Yeah.
Sharon is incredible.
She's an artist.
The yellow pages of our chat room.
She really is. And she does all that techie stuff. It's like, I can't even find
Right. Yeah. I spent a half an hour, well, actually an hour this morning trying to make a short and add music to it. And I just was not, any way that was legal was not a good thing for me.
No.
Oh, good. Indigo already got her book, downloaded it to her Kindle Scribe.
Hi, Indigo.
That's a great idea. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Indigo. So I love that. Anyway, there's a few questions coming in too. So I am starring those, you guys. Ness has a question, and we had another question too at the very beginning. And Paul White Dragon had a question. So we'll get to those in a little bit. This is good because this reminds me of like back in the day, like when I first started studying feng shui and oracle cards and things like that. I get those books for dummies, the yellow ones that were out, and they were great. And I would put Post-it notes all over them, and it was really easy for me to get my brain wrapped around it that way. But not that this is a book for dummies, but this is simple and clean.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be an easy way to learn.
I don't know how you could say you're expert enough to say you're a dummy. You're going to dummy up something that's so integral to someone else's life. What it does is it gives you a chance.
Yeah.
A simple way to go deal with it without having to call Jeffrey or I or Terri 39 times saying, what about this? Well, start stacking those little payments up against much.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm a real firm believer in the guru is GURU.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love
It's
that.
YouTube. I really try. Every so often it just completely falls out, and I'm like, and then once I open the door, I just let it. I let the flood cover the town.
Right?
YouTube doesn't like that.
Yeah. And because we kind of know when we ask a question of ourselves, sometimes it's hard. Like people say, oh, I can't read for myself. And and sometimes I do have a hard time reading for myself, but if somebody has a format like that for me,
Mm-hmm.
then
And
I
you know,
can.
the thing is too, before you do it, you know, you say, I call on my light to be with me. I call on my light to be with me and protect me, to help me to see, hear, feel, trust what I see, you know?
And
Yeah.
that's why I suggest people get kind of a buddy somewhere in the system,
Mm-hmm.
someone you can talk to and bounce, this
And
is what I'm reading.
and I think that, you know, because sometimes, you know, cards, you know, Nancy and I teach tarot. And, you know, cards are really quite complicated little things. You know, it's very easy to, you know, watch, oh, well, this card always means this. Every card has 30 or 40 meanings. So I think if you use an oracle deck with this, I think it'd be much clearer, you know, because it's a very distinct, you know, message. And it's much more distinct in an oracle because they give you the whole explanation. So it's like, well, what am I trying to, you know, avoid? And it'll come up, you know, strength, and you know, how can I incorporate it? And then it'll come up patience, you know, because it's like a little bit clearer. So that might help people if you don't have that much experience with tarot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Diana just got hers. Everybody's saying they just got theirs. And
Oh wow, cool.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's awesome. Paul's saying,
Now listen,
Terri,
if you all digital it and tell me if it automatically digitalized. You
Digitized.
can see it's obvious that I'm an author. It's obvious because I speak my own language.
I love it.
Digitalization meant shots. I'm, you know, with Spanish.
He
You know,
didn't write it. Hey, he didn't write it in Hebrew, so you're safe.
yeah, no, I could do Hebrew too.
Can you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive. Impressive. I think that's the most beautiful language to see the alphabet, Hebrew. It's just
Well, the
beautiful.
letters, so like in terms of the occult understand, the letters are based on the configuration of fire.
That makes a lot of sense because it looks like light language to me, the
Hmm.
way it's written out, or programming, soul
Mhm.
program.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
based on the configuration of fire. That's pretty heavy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later. Um, it it is going to be available in print pretty soon. Guardians.
Yes, it very soon, hopefully in a day or two. They got in touch with me. Somebody bought one, and then it didn't attach to the site that prints it, and so I paid extra and had it shipped to the person because I want them to have it. But I don't know. They were like, "We need access," and I was like, "Yes, you have access." I sent them the link, so I think they're going to do it, and then I have to. We'll see. It's been
Yeah.
a few days of that. It's really been a few days of that, and it's not my strong suit. So
Well, not dealing with the mechanics, the electronics between here and there, which brings us to almost our first question, Terry.
Okay. Yes.
This came off my website. It's from Indigo Child. What are the 3 days of darkness?
maybe we each represent one day of darkness. Who
Yeah.
wants to be past, present, and who wants to be future?
Right.
I'll go put something really creepy on.
The first time I heard about the 3 days of darkness, it was that it's a place the earth is going to be thrown into. Now, I don't know how many of you know about the Carrington event, which happened in the late 1800s, but it's when a blast came off the sun, a solar flare came off our own sun, and it got past the ionic shield that protected us, and it burned out every telegraph place that was facing the sun at that point. And it actually injured several telegraph workers that were in their place doing their telegrapher thing because it hit the lines. And before then, we'd had these blasts come towards us. We can see them in the stones. It's one of those things geologists talk about. But we never had people here with something that could catch it. So that was just a setup. This is before Marconi did telegraph, guys. This
Mm-hmm,
was
mm-hmm.
just hardwired on the earth. It's called the Carrington event. You can go read about it. Now think about everything we have that is electronically. And if a blast came from the sun, that completely, it could blow out. Well, we'd have a rather boring life for a few weeks, guys, because there'd be no readers on the air. There'd also be no cell phones on the air. I mean, everything we have is out in space where we can't protect it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be one explanation of the 3 days of darkness. The other is that there's an old biblical prophecy that's tied to the thing about the chosen, what Terri and I talked about last week. That there's going to be a flare that comes from the center of our galaxy, of our part of the solar system, and a flare that comes in from outer space. Now everybody goes, "Oh, how big of a flare could come from outer space?" We've had some mothers. Trust me, we've had some real mothers come after us. And on this one, it says this is when the universe is going to tell us we are all changed. It's going to hit both sides of the planet, because when you have the sun hit you, it has the sun. You have to be facing the sun that,
Mm-hmm.
and this comes. And 2 or 3 years ago, one of my 9 candles that I did was called Riding the Waves. And there was a huge wave of energy coming in. Its beat was so long between the trough and the height was so long they had to develop a new instrument to find it. I mean, they'd catch it occasionally. They said, "Is this regular?" And they had to develop this new instrument to find it. And so we're very well aware that if the universe ever decides to sneak up on our dark side, it can.
It's so, as you were saying it, I got this vision of like a Vesica Pisces.
Right.
Right. I was really, so the Vesica Pisces is a very holy ancient symbol. It's divine geometry. So it's 2 interlocking circles like so, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of times you look at it and you want to interpret it as like, oh, it's like the dark and the light, or the masculine and the feminine coming together, right? And then it forms that womb shape, which is very
Right. Mhm.
So, and then it's like, well, is it the 2 of them coming together and forming the shape, or is that shape giving birth to the 2 of them simultaneously? And I think the answer to both questions is yes.
Yes. So
It's a simultaneous creation, uncreation, union, duality. It's all at once.
so that's one of the interpretations of 3 days darkness. The other is that's it. You got it.
Beautiful. That's a really good one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful.
That's a
Isn't it?
really good one. Ooh, that would make a perfect t-shirt. Ooh.
The first one that came up. Yeah. Yeah, the in between, right?
Yeah,
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's such a sacred space, too.
right, exactly. And then when you put 4 of them together, north, south, east, west, that becomes the flower of life.
Oh, that's
And
my favorite, the flower of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
But
actually one day,
this is the building block.
I actually one time drew that whole thing. I got a compass out and I got a ruler out, and I figured out how to do it because I thought I ought to at least go through the mental discipline. You will only do it once if you have a computer.
Yeah, there's the flower of life behind it. You see?
Yeah, see all the little.
I'm pointing so like, but you can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. There you go. Right there.
Yeah, you see, it's the same shape over and over. That's what
Mhm.
like a lot of the divine geometry is about. And that's really the understanding of like the Islamic divine geometry, which is the small one is the large one. They're one and the same, like the Godhead and the creation is all of one. And the one gives
Interconnected.
birth to the multiple is the one.
Yeah. Interconnected. And that's going to be 5D and on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Right.
maybe that's what the
Yeah.
3 days of
And
darkness. And I think, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say this in between state in meditation, that's what we call the gap, or
Yeah.
at least in our tribe, the gap, and that The space between time, the space between light, the space
The
between
space between the
atom.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah, between the thought.
Right.
Exactly.
So that something new can come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll remove that. Oh, I'll put a shits back to where we were. There we go. So anyway, that was, I don't know if that described that 3 days of darkness for everybody, but I think that for me, I still have a hard time kind of getting my head around it, like what it's going to look like, which is fine. I'm kind of curious about it. We do have kind of a deal with our group that meets in the mornings for meditations that we'll still meet. We just won't be
I think
online.
to me, it feels more, I don't know, individualized and personal.
Oh, thank you. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be individualized and personal, but we're all going to go through it at the same or similar time. But at the end of the day, you know, it's like you're the one you have to wake up with, right?
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's a running theory here.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't tell that to my cat.
Yeah. And I like the idea of Nancy Jean, do you want to say anything about the timeline shifts with that, or do you want to keep that for
Well,
another
okay,
time?
no. I watched a show, and you can find it. You can go and search on YouTube, and it was about the time shift from 1988. And the theory of these guys is, who knows who they are? I couldn't find. It's one of those things you can't research. It's just kind of interesting to hear about. But that the world actually ended in 1988, or it was scheduled to, and right at the precipice when it should have ended, when the Russians were going to pull the trigger because the Soviet Union was falling apart. And of course, we would have, with incredible intelligence, responded back and blown them away, which wouldn't help anybody anyway. The universe stepped in and it shifted the timeline run. Now, I lived through that, and I don't remember any day in 1988 saying, oops. I don't remember any of that. But I swear the 80s were so crazy. That would be a great time to do it because everybody was effed up in the 80s. So that was alive then. For those of you dears who came afterwards, you're much better off for not having gone through it. But anyway, their theory is that we are now getting ready to shift back because we have a chance, one last chance, to not have that mistake. But if we don't, and then they kind of leave that empty. So my impression is, if we don't, I made it to 76. I'm fine.
I mean, you know, I like to talk about really deep and heavy things, but all I can think of is off the shoulder tops. That's all I can think of.
Oh yeah, I know, and Dynasty and all those people with hair.
I love Dynasty.
I always figured people wear their hair like helmets, you know.
Yeah, flock of seagulls. I mean, shoulder pads out to here.
Mm-hmm.
And the cold shoulder shirts. Yeah, it was not attractive. But the kids love it now. 1988 is the first time I heard that I had a guardian angel. Or you heard your guardian angel, Patricia.
So they were
Was it
getting ready.
1988 when the what was it called? Like the planets aligned like they are now?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was back then when the 5 planets were all lined up at the same time.
Yeah. What was that called? It was called something. I can't remember.
Remember, we were all supposed to wake up in the morning and meditate?
I went to a fabulous party in Atlanta that night. A fabulous party.
Wow, cool.
I used to be in the garment center. And I used to sell dresses wholesale, right? So I was in Atlanta and I was doing a show and I was so tired after the show because you meet like 50 or 60 stores. I went home and I went to sleep. I went to the hotel and went to sleep. And I woke up at 10 o'clock. I said, you need to eat something. So I just called room service. I said, just give me soup or something.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy comes in and the biggest queen you ever saw in your life. Like he was black, but he had his hair, his fro. It was like this. It was very 80s.
Angular things.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like a parallelogram like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And And he's like, oh my God, you're my last client. I'm so excited. I'm going to a party. I said, you're going to a party and you didn't invite me? He said, come on. So I get into like his old like jalopy. I'm telling you, this car, like every door was a different color. You know, it was like three wheels. And he takes me like so deep into. I had no idea where I was, none. And I go to this, and it's this old house. You know, it's like it almost looked haunted. It was like a really big, old, wooden, kind of decrepit house. And there was this party that was wild. I had a
Mhm.
great time. And then they wanted to go to Stone Mountain, and I kind of wanted to go, but it
Wow.
was like they couldn't guarantee me. I had to work the next day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, but I had a fabulous time.
Yeah. Stone Mountain is a trip. You're lucky you didn't go. They didn't have gates around anything back then, and people were falling off it all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I went there and I thought, this is not right. This is just all wrong. White Dragon Paul says, according to Nostradamus, all hell would have
Harmonic
broken loose.
convergence. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly. Wounds to
Yeah.
wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah. And at about 2012, all hell would have
That was the
broken loose.
Mayan calendar thing. Was
Oh, is that what
2012.
that was? Okay.
I
Yeah.
kept thinking I don't need to save my money because the world's going to end. Don't deal with your personal finances that way. Doesn't work. Not nearly as well as you would think.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing up my shadow work, Nancy.
Well, you know, I had a vision. One of my visions was my angel showing me my death, and I was quite old, and I
Mhm.
went to a valley, and it was beautiful, and I went in there and I laid down and I walked out of my body, and I went up, and my guides were all waiting for me, and they said, "We told you you never had to worry about anything."
Mhm.
And I thought, man, I spent all that time worrying.
I know.
And I was like, okay. So, yeah.
Well, it's like in these times, don't watch the news and don't worry about things you can't fix. Now you can send love and light to people you see being verbally abused in the White House, but
Hmm.
you can't change hearts and minds of people are changing though, because I'm watching. I live in a very conservative part of the country, and when you have people in the city of South Lake show up and form a human chain with signs telling Trump and Elon to stop it, because not because either of them are there. One of the executives of Tesla was in town
Hmm.
at some meeting in that part of the city. And when you see people showing up and they're getting attacked like that, and when you really look at how successful this, don't give them your money. That's if they want money, we're going to take our money and go home. When you see how successful Friday was, there were pictures from the Walmarts near me being taken by the employees walking around with their cameras on the side. There wasn't anybody in there.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I think that was a really good way to do it. That reminded me a lot of, just um, fighting with love,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like we love ourselves enough that we're not going to spend our money there, and
Mhm.
we're going to take care of our planet and our people.
Mhm. Well, think about it. Like, let's say you're having like a to do with somebody, and they really get your goat. They say these things that are really nasty, and you have this come back, and all that, and just goes back and forth and back and forth. If you keep quiet, that'll really mess them up.
Yeah. Right. They do thrive on fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, narcissists do, and there's a lot of narcissists in power. There always are.
Well,
Just
I've worked with them and gotten them elected, and trust me, people would say, "Oh, you ought to run for office because you know all this stuff," which was true. I knew the fields I was working in. I knew the stuff, and I said, "Are you kidding?" The day of the election, you'd find me in the darkest corner of my closet with everything I didn't, and no one would ever touch, piled on top of me, saying, "I don't want to know what the count is, even if it's me." You know, I mean, it takes such an ego to put yourself in that kind of a world, and I admire, I mean, some of the ones I admire because I really felt like they were there for the right reasons. That's why I got out after 2012. There were too many there for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for the next question?
We have one question we need to answer quickly. Barbara Berkman wants to know, can someone explain what the shadow is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's for each of us, Barbara, we each create and have our own. There's not a brief explanation of shadow work because it depends on how much you come in with, where you started from, how accessible your mind is to what you carried in from a past life and what's been built up in this life. And also how bad you carry a grudge. I have a friend who should hate half the world, and she goes, oh, well, they were just doing what they needed to do, and I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she does not carry a long shadow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's your explanation, Jeff?
No, I think it's different for different people. Maybe there's a sadness or a grief or a resentment or a feeling, maybe a betrayal that you carry around with you. Just these are examples.
Yeah.
You carry with you that influences your life on many, many levels. And, maybe this, just looking at this, not even necessarily my book, just being able to start to look at this stuff, saying, oh, this is why I act this way. This is why I feel this way. And I don't really want to feel or act like this anymore. And sometimes just bringing it into the light, sometimes, just acknowledging that, okay, I was really selfish in that situation, for example. It's like just bringing it out into the light kind of like, dissipates it to such, it's like, yeah, well, I do have a tendency to be, say, selfish in certain situations, and it's based in fear. So now if a similar situation comes up again, now that I'm aware of it, it's like, I really want to, go over to their house and smack them across the face and go home. But instead, I'll bake them a cake without poison in it.
Right. Yeah.
I think in a cartoon sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Knock. Hi. And then you walk away.
Yeah.
So I think I think a shadow is it's different for all of us. Some people are carrying around a lot of anger or resentment, and it's just hurting the individual. And for some other people, it could be this sense of abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own little flavor.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's really individualized. But I think the time now is to it's almost time for us to clean it all out, so that we make room for more stuff, more good stuff. I don't know how else to say it.
I agree. I was having this conversation last night with my daughter, and we were talking about it. And it's kind of like, at first you're, like you said, Jeffrey, you're carrying around all that stuff, all that old stuff. And it kind of programs the way your brain thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you notice that it's kind of about trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Like you leave a little piece of yourself here and there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because you're kind of worried about other people and either what they think or what they did or what they might do. And then all of a sudden you realize if you trust in yourself to do the right thing and carry you through, that's all you really need is trusting your light and your progress. But celebrate should be our song, White Dragon says. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Barbara, parts of ourselves do get twisted in order to survive. And that's a gift that we have. That somehow they sequenced us to have that gift that we could say, okay, well, they said that to me, so I won't hear that anymore.
Right.
Or, and now we're calling it all back. And you're in your power, standing in your power now.
Right.
So,
It's almost like, in a way, Barbara, it's like, it's having this opportunity like, oh, I have one dressy dress and I wear it to every single occasion I go to, right? But now you're going to have another option.
Oh,
Oh,
I
maybe
like
I'll wear this instead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to say it, right? Maybe I'll wear this instead.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Jeffrey, because that brings up curiosity, Barbara. And when we think in fear-minded things, then we know we react in fear. We can see that in our hearts, and we can be curious about that. Curiosity uses a different part of your brain than fear.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're curious about it, like, oh, I've got a different dress. Which dress will I wear?
Oh, what am I going to put? Oh, what accessories? Ooh.
Well, I saw a quote today, and I put the article over because I'm going to use it for a class later on. But it says, "We found a new rock bottom. It's called habituation.
Mm.
When you get so used to," and they were talking about, remember the first time you went to the Grand Canyon and you were overwhelmed by the magnitude and you just couldn't believe you're really here. I'm never going to the Grand Canyon because it's a long way down and I don't like heights. But they said now your life has become kind of joyless. You're dragging yourself around. You're trying to think of something fun to do. So you drag your butts to the Grand Canyon and you look and you go, it's a big ditch in the ground. That's habituation. That's where you keep going back to the thing that worked before.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming in without the curiosity, without the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's true. That's more than rock bottom because, that's really, I've tried everything. And what you're doing is you're locking yourself up from the curiosity of going and trying new things.
Mm-hmm.
My dear departed second husband, he had restaurants he liked to go to. And you're like, Dallas is full of incredible restaurants. And you want to go to El Phoenix one more time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Chandel, the shadow. So many of us have that childhood trauma. And part of that now is that it's a reset, right?
Right.
And we don't judge that we've had that, or we shouldn't judge ourselves that we went through a lot of childhood trauma or grief or whatever it was, because that was a huge reset. And a lot of star people that are here right now went through a lot of big stuff to remember who we were.
It's so interesting too, Chandel. And it just came to me as you asked the question, as Terri was talking. It's like we're not afraid to all say this. We're at this point in the world. Like, who would have said this 5 years ago? Everybody like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah,
You're out
I'm
of your mind.
great. I'm
Now
great.
everyone's like, you know what? I'm really angry, or I'm really fearful, or I'm really insecure, or I'm really whatever. Everyone's putting it out on the table, and everyone says, you know what? I'm going to go home and work on this, and I'm going to go home and work on this, and then it's almost like at the end of the school year, we all bring in our little projects. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I can't believe you made that a volcano. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting because if we've been collectively, and this is humanity, carrying this stuff around, and now we're all at least looking at letting go or transforming it collectively and individually, it's like, that's a change, man. That's a really big change.
Huge change, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
No
if the
judgment.
momentum is behind it, it's like, well, I know he's doing it, I know that she's doing it, and I know the two of them over there are doing it. So it becomes easier. There's like a collective easiness to it. If you do the crossword on Monday with everybody else, it's a little hard. If you do it on Tuesday, it's easier because it's in the collective. The answers are in the collective.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, Barbara, we support you, dear. And all of us are going through something. And there's never any judgment on the other side. It's just on this side. Somebody's asking if you can get your book, Dragonfly is, on another way and not off Amazon.
Yeah, well, the physical book will be available in a day or two. Cross your fingers, cross my fingers. Let's all cross fingers. But the digital version is available now on my website and
Jeffrey, so
in process with the other publisher.
And
So,
in the chat, B. Moncrief, who's I shouldn't say your last name, but Beatrice, she's one of my tarot. She's been one of our tarot students, and the last couple of weeks we let old students come back and
former students.
yes, former students, and we've had 3 brave souls that have shown up every time, and B was there, and she got intrigued with it, and she's already downloaded it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I cling to things like a barnacle too. So, oh, barnacle, Nancy Jean.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Let the shadow out and let more love in. Amen to that, Shondell.
Mhm.
Okay. Everybody's saying they got their digital copies. And then, okay, we got Barbara going on up. White Dragon had, okay, White Dragon said, Terri, about those 3 days, I do not think it's a physical thing. This will not happen. It's more of a spiritual night of the soul sort of thing. At least that's how it feels to me. That is because the timelines have changed dramatically in the last few days. Plus, Michael has been busy merging negative ones onto this one that has the greatest chances to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Love that, White Dragon. Okay. Okay. And then Ness has a question.
Thank you, Jen.
I welcome a read on my writing project. Message from guide says I finished it. This is the final stretch and it feels overwhelming.
Ness, it's not overwhelming. And my feeling is if you've ever run a race or swum a race or been a part of something where there's going to be finally a time you're going to, I was a swimmer, the time that you touch the edge of the pool, those last few yards seem longer than the whole race.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when's it going to come? That's what you're feeling. But your final stretch, you're in the final stretch, and I don't think you're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. And you know, when you were saying that,
you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Move, move, move. Passion. Yay, yay, yay.
Yeah, I got you coming out of it, kid. Just like a little girl emerging. So I got that thing that you were going to get a surge, like when Nancy Jean was talking about that surge of like whoosh.
That last,
yeah,
it's what runs through you when you hit the wall. Oh my God, I did make it. And I used to win races. So, I mean, I was like the first one to touch the wall, and I could feel that energy come back. Not for very long. That takes a lot of diligence and work. And young Nancy Jean was not there.
Yeah. And you've got somebody in your corner. You've got
Right.
some of your ancestors that are pushing it too. They're like the women, they're behind you, or the feminine energy. So, yeah. Linda says, as I interact with my MAGA landlord and his wife, they think things in the USA are just great, normal again. He's 82, and so we will. Yeah. 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 It's, you know, everybody's living in their own world, and there's no judgment there. So what they believe is the right thing is what they firmly believe, and they believe that for them and their entire family and the entire world.
Well, you can take the red hat off the MAGA, but you can't put brains in the head.
This is
that's Nancy Jean's very judgmental statement on that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be universal and love everybody, but I think we need to have standards.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
And standards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Garden Genie, would you say it is things in our heart, mind, and soul, perhaps, not even a conscious memory, that create difficulty for you in your life?
Okay. Well, what I think happens is when something comes up and it blocks me from doing something I really want to do, I have to sit down very quietly and hear whose voice is saying it to me, because that will be the voice that told me no.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find them. And once you realize that's not me really speaking, the problem is when you think it's what you really believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, that you're parroting the beliefs of others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. as a definition. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I think also we try to define it. It's not about defining it. It's about working with it. It's about seeing where it takes you. Sometimes it's like, I don't need we all think we need a definition for everything. It's there in front of you. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm working with it and I'll figure it out. I'll define it as I work with it.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Yeah. What keeps coming in this week is synergy,
Right.
like getting into the energy of it. And synergy for me also is working with your senses and your clairs. And since we're working with our subtle senses now, like we've had our 5 senses all our life that, programming said that's what you have. But now we remember things, we know things. We hear things, we understand things that it's not what was normal maybe a year or two ago. So you're getting all those new senses that are coming through, and it all looks different. I don't know if that made sense or not, but anyway, synergy. Ness, another question. Do you 3 see some collective energy surge happening in March? A lot of readers are seeing something, not all. Astrologers are seeing it too. I've heard about this. They're talking about the 27th or the 28th.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of eclipses. We've got a bunch of star shine that's going to be shinier than maybe we wanted to be gifted with. But it's just, you just kind of got to wait. When I anticipated the full solar eclipse a year ago that was right over me, I stood in a full solar eclipse, and it was something I'd always kind of wanted to do in my life. And I got my little glasses and I got my little water and I sat in my little chair and watched the whole thing. And it did shift energy in with me, and I had to go to some healers to heal what had shifted. So, and I was thinking it was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and I ended up having to do some readjustments. So, I'm, and so I've given up saying things are going to be, let's do handsprings or it's going to be terrible. And I'm listening to all the reports of what people are saying about the energies moving around the world. Both Vedic and Western astrologers and other people. I think we live in such a time of crazy that when you wake up today, you do the best you can with what you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're in the middle of this energy. It started a few months ago. It's going to last a while longer. I don't know how long a while is. It's not, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wrote a book. In a million years, I never thought I'd write it. I wrote a book. Like, well,
I know. Talk to Dr. Gale about writing books.
And I'm writing another one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next time my hair will grow back. I don't know. Miracles can happen.
I got rid of my adult asthma, Jeffrey. So maybe your hair can grow back.
Why not? Right? Yeah. Everyone should write a book, right, Ness? Yeah. I do feel like there's something happening every day, Ness, but it does feel like something's culminating. That's not a word. Cumulative. Thank you. And it's kind of like things are building up. But if we're on a different timeline and we've already seen it build up, we won't be as attached to the outcome. So, and then that's the thing that's really important right now, is to watch things, have compassion for everybody that's going through everything, including yourselves, but not be attached to the outcome and the worry about it. Because if we're just aware of it and we're watching it, it makes a huge, otherwise you wake up with that sick stomach awesomeness. Yeah.
Everyone should write a book. We do. It's in the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
But they're not as much fun to download.
Yeah. Everyone needs to experience the solar eclipse, but Navajo stay inside. Oh, Yeah. And
Apparently, there's some Navajo blood in me, Indigo Child, because I should have stayed inside.
yeah. Yeah. And so everybody's talking about their stomachs. The solar plexus are huge right now. Do we want to talk about that? It feels like that's been a huge part of Ascension.
What's going on with the sun? There is a guy who does the sun's weather report, and he also
I think
ties
you
them to
mean.
the volcanoes and
I know who you mean.
Stephen Broom.
Right.
Um, and he gets a little repetitive, and he really loves his charts, but that's okay. I love my cards, and I get repetitive too. But I watch his, and my daughter said, "What are we watching?" Because there was this big, and there was things coming. And they were saying, "And this is happening in this sector," and they were talking about north, south, east, west. She goes, and I said, "That's a weather report for the sun." And she said, "Am I shallow because it's just enough for me that it showed up today?" I said, "No, you're just very busy. Your mother isn't." But there is a lot of energy floating around us, and that energy doesn't seem to bother my stomach, but whatever.
Yeah, I had stomach troubles this week that felt like a psychic attack. But I knew that it wasn't because I was scanning everything, and but it was like, knock you over for 20 minutes and then get back up and you're fine. Patricia says, the way I'm experienced this dynamic energy is receiving upgrades where Dr. Gal, Medical Mike, was involved. I received an adjustment to the upgrade over the weekend, 2 more upgrades in the next 2 months.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Yeah. There's so many people here that have so many gifts. So, and you guys included.
And your gift is finding the person I can work with. Your gift is finding the person that can help you get through it.
Yeah.
And I just, that's it. I'm not gonna say more.
Somebody said something, oh golly, was it Beatrice? Somebody said something about before when we were talking about somebody's MAGA 82-year-old.
Yeah, and I said you can take the hat off his head, but you can't put brains in the head.
Yeah.
That's a very judgmental statement, but it's I've been live for 75 years. It's my mind. I'll close it when I want to.
Yeah. And you said it with a smile. So there's that. Beatrice, I listened to Rahm Emanuel saying that as long as we don't ask what is going on in the classroom, we should not ask about the bathrooms. You go, Nancy. Love the hat comment. I love that. Yeah. Amen to that, Beatrice. Standing in our power, man. Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. And do you want to talk any more about your new book, Jeffrey? Because I'm so excited about it.
Well, I'm so, honestly, so that would be like a little bit of a shadow work thing. It's like, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then I did it. And I'm really kind of grateful and amazed. And, because I think, sometimes for some of us, part of the shadow work is we tell ourselves, oh, I can't, I'm too this, I'm too that, and la, 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 la. I mean, it's not the next great American novel. That'll be next month. But I got my feet wet,
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, too, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. I did the best, and like, I'll write another one, and maybe it'll be clearer or longer or prettier. And I'm proud of it because I feel like I'm really offering a service.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm really proud of it. I feel like I'm really offering a service. And I'm getting through it. The techie stuff is really the most challenging stuff for me. And slowly I'm getting through it. And if I don't know, like I ask the computer, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? And you figure it out as you go, just like the rest of our lives. And it is really exciting that we're all like looking at this stuff and saying, I don't really want this anymore. I want to be a different person. I want to. And that the thing is, your light has the answer. Your light
Mhm.
has the answer. And I mean, in a lot of ways, that's really the undercurrent theme of my channel, which is as you're doing something or you decide whether you want to do something, it's like, does this hold love for me? Is this for my highest good? Is this for my highest healing? Is this for my high, you know? And yeah, I think a big part of being human on the planet is to really learn to love ourselves the way that Godhead loves us,
Mhm.
which is completely and unconditionally, and no matter what, even if you throw things across the room, even if, I wish I had something to throw. Makes me feel better.
Ernest Hemingway used to get a big box of number 2 pencils, and he'd sit at the pencil sharpener and he would sharpen the entire box before he would start a novel. That was his, okay, there are no more pencils to sharpen, so now I have to write.
Mm.
Everybody has to find that boundary for themselves. I think in Jeffrey's case, he just didn't want to gripe at me anymore about it.
I love that.
It's good to have a friend.
It is good to have a friend. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we do talk ourselves out of our aspirations and challenges.
Oh, I think that happens all the time to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the programming here.
Yeah, I think it happens all the time to all of us. And it's like, okay, I heard what you had to say, and now I'm going to show you who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Bitch.
Yeah. Right? Definitely. Yeah, standing in our power. I feel like we're all standing in our power right now, learning how to. So, yeah, so you can go to rightcolor.com. And that is Jeffrey's website, and download
It'll
that
be
book.
on the meditations page, because it'll come on the meditations page.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome.
And Jeffrey and I are going to be talking about it tomorrow some more, but we're going to actually be doing some readings with some people about it. So,
Awesome. Well,
I have to decide on my outfit. I mean, the rest of the day is going to be about deciding on my outfit.
That's true. He does that. You have no idea.
I love that.
I showed up in my not schlocky t-shirt. I covered my
I like that. I like that.
I
Yeah.
went in Kohl's to turn something in, and it's one of the Kohl's that's closing, and everything was more than 50% off. So I got this Vera Wang shawl cape thing and a new pair of pajamas for myself. That was my lovely day out, where I actually had a man flirt with me in a restaurant. So,
oh, do tell.
well, he actually we started talking because he liked the dragonfly T-shirt I had on, and we were talking. And it ends up his late wife really liked dragonflies, and he told me this incredible story about how every time his granddaughter had played golf in college on her scholarship, a dragonfly would follow her around the course. And he said, could that have been her? He knew by then what I did. He said, could that have been her mother? Anyway, he said to me, do you come here often? And it's a little diner, right? And I said, I haven't heard that line.
As a matter of fact.
I said, I haven't heard that line since the 70s. And it was always dark and smoky and had boozle related. So,
you know what I do when I go to the, what do you call it? I don't have it. Yeah. When I go to like the language exchange, there's a million people. I have friends there. And then I see somebody who's like handsome. And then I do this, right? I do this and I drop it.
Jeffrey.
Does it work?
And he looks at me and I go, they're all no good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Mrs. Skeffington. It's like Mrs. Skeffington. That was the movie.
Yes. Oh. Jeffrey, you're the cutest person I've ever met, darling man. Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. back.
Lauren, you're so beautiful too.
But anyway, I think I need to tell you, Terri, it's an hour.
Okay, we got to go, everybody. Our hour is up. We are going to turn into something. And everybody have a great day. And everybody go buy Jeffrey's book. And we will talk to you all later. Thank you all for being here.
And thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Bye.
Jean.
Let my hand go.
Bye-bye.
My hand was off in the edges.